Yo guys, today we're talking about classes in Aion 6.0, which is basically the game's relaunch in 2018. I know many of you are trying the game now, many of you are new, many of you are returning, so you have lots of questions. I can see it from my comments from our Discord about the classes, what to play, what class is good, what class is needed, and so on and so forth. So in this video, together with you guys, we're gonna go through each of these classes in Aion. There's 11 in total, and we're gonna see what they can do. In case you don't know who I am, my nickname is Saivo. It's nice to meet you. I'm a lifetime Aion player and I want to welcome you to our community. If you're new and if you're returning, welcome back. Throughout the years, Aion has went through good and bad, but there's one thing that has not changed throughout the years, and that is the community. It was great in 2009, the first day I joined, and it is absolutely great even now, 9 years later in 2018. So you're in good hands in terms of community in this game. Now let's get into the video, guys, and before we start with all the classes, I want to tell you two very important things that you need to remember throughout the video. Number one is that when I am comparing classes in this video, and when I tell you that this class does more damage than that class and this class does more healing than that class, I am always comparing equal gear, equal skill, equal ping, equal enchants, equal absolutely everything, this class and that class. I will never compare a Templar with great gear to a Ranger with very bad gear, and then you're gonna be wondering, why does Saivo say that class does more damage? No, it's always in my head, absolutely perfect player versus absolutely perfect player of the other class. That is super important for you to remember throughout the video. The second thing I want to talk about is more important than the first, and that's the PvP aspect of Aion as a game and the classes in it. I want you to always remember that each class in Aion is very equally balanced against all of the other classes. It is not perfect, however, it is very good in terms of balancing 1v1, this class versus all of the others, this class versus all of the others, and so on and so forth. A good gladiator can defeat a good sorcerer. A good sorcerer can defeat a good gladiator. And it goes the same with absolutely every single class. There is no class in the game that's gonna give you a clear, distinct advantage. If you play it, you're gonna have an easy time versus absolutely everyone. No problem, just pick it up, go whatever gear, whatever skill, whatever ping, doesn't matter, you're gonna trump everyone. It's not gonna happen in Aion because classes are very well balanced. Not perfect, but very well balanced. Of course, there's patches, and this patch Templar is a little bit better, that patch Chanter is a little bit better, that patch Aethertech is a little bit better, and so on and so forth. But absolutely nothing that should give you not even a 1% doubt that you lost that duel just because that guy was the other class than you were, and you heard from someone that that's your nemesis class. You as a ranger can never beat a sorcerer, so just hands off the keyboard and just wait for you to get killed. No such thing, guys. Yeah, PvP in Aion is not about what class you pick. PvP in Aion is about timings, how well you know your class, how well you pop your cooldowns, how well you know the limits of your class, how well you know the other class, what they can do, when they do it, how they do it, and so on and so forth. That's how you win PvP in Aion. You don't win PvP because you play that specific class. So in this video, we're not gonna talk about classes in PvP. We're gonna talk about classes in PvE, because PvE is a completely different story. In PvE, there's a number 1 DPS, which does really good, and in PvE, there's a number 7 DPS, which does pretty bad. That's a different story. But let's just get into it, and let's start with the classes. Yeah, I will remove this camera so you guys can see absolutely everything. When you start Aion, you have to choose from a selection of 6 starting professions. All of these professions branch out upon reaching level 9 to 2 separate classes from which you can only choose one. The process of choosing your class is irreversible. You can only choose one and you can never change it throughout the game. All except the artist. Artist only has one class that it branches into at level 9 for the time being. I'm pretty sure in future patches, artist is also going to get a second branch, and then we would have 12 classes in total out of 6 starting professions. For now, there's 11 classes, and we're going to start from left to right. Warrior class, this profession wears heavy, so both the Templar and the Gladiator, which are their branches, wear heavy armor. Templars are the main tank of the game. They are a class that bring a lot of defensive cooldowns for yourself and also for the group members. They are very useful to have basically everywhere the going gets tough. Especially in terms of PvP, they are very useful for their defensive cooldowns. Very nice class to play, a class that is not that hard to play. In terms of Saivo difficulty rating, I would rate Templars as a 1.5 stars out of 5. I'm giving them 1.5 and not 1, simply because there is a weapon swap mechanic that makes the class a little bit more intriguing than absolute beginner level. You do need to swap weapons if you want to take full advantage and be an exceptional Templar. The weapon swapping mechanic has to be done, yeah. Templars have a choice of weapons in between X and shield, and by X I mean either a sword like you see in this picture or a mace. So you can wear a mace in your main hand or a sword in your main hand and a shield in offhand. That's a more defensive choice. In terms of how Templars do damage, they can equip a two-handed greatsword. With a two-handed greatsword, and in terms of damage, Templars are somewhere in the bottom half in terms of PvE DPS compared to every other class. I would recommend Templar as a class for a beginner player to Aion, as it is not that hard to play. Gladiators, also as I told you, they wear heavy armor. They have a choice of a two-handed polearm like you see here in the picture, which gives them access to a lot more AoE, or they can choose to dual wield two one-handed weapons. Dual wielding two one-handed weapons is more common in PvE because that unlocks their potential to do a lot of damage. In terms of difficulty, I would rate Gladiators on the Saivo scale as a 4.5 star difficulty out of 5. It is a very rare sight to see an exceptional Gladiator. I know you see plenty of them and I know you think they do well. However, pressing your skills with polearm, spinning around and jumping, that's not doing well on a Gladiator. If you want to unlock the true potential of Gladiator, there are a lot of things that you need to keep in mind, a lot of tricks that you need to do during your playstyle, and that applies for PvP and for PvE as well. So Gladiator, a very tough class to be exceptional at. So a good challenge for those of you who are looking for a challenge. In terms of PvE content, Gladiators are probably in the top 3 DPS if you are, of course, exceptional at it. In terms of PvE content, dungeons and how viable you are at endgame, Gladiator is a much more desirable class than a Templar. You don't really need so many defensive cooldowns as the Templar can bring, and you need a lot of damage as a good, really good Gladiator can bring. Not to mention the fact that Gladiators have a lot of AoE damage, and PvE dungeons in Aion Endgame patch 6.x have a lot of adds or trash mobs to clear. So Gladiator, about 10 times more desirable than a Templar in terms of endgame. Both of them can tank, however when the going gets tough, Gladiator can't tank because they should be focused on DPSing, while Templars can easily tank absolutely any PvE content, yeah. Moving on to Scout. Scout at level 9 branches into Ranger and Assassin. Rangers are your typical bow and arrow class. They can wear only a bow as a weapon. They wear leather, same as their partners assassins, and they are a ranged DPS class. In terms of DPS, how much they can provide at endgame, I would put them in the top 5 DPS, and that puts them basically in the better half in terms of classes in Aion, as there's only 11 classes, yeah. Rangers, even though they are ranged, that doesn't really come in handy in terms of PvE content, as PvE content in Aion these days is mostly about stacking up, being together, so that doesn't provide you a bonus in PvE, but it does provide you a bonus in PvP. Rangers in Aion don't have pets, but they do have traps, and obviously, as I said at the beginning of the video, in PvP they are as viable and as fun to play as any other class, as long as you're the Ranger type and you enjoy playing it, yeah. Moving in terms of difficulty, not moving anywhere, in terms of difficulty, I would give Ranger a 2.5 stars on the Saivo difficulty meter. Not a very hard class to play, but definitely harder to do better at than, for example, a Templar, yeah. Next is the Assassin. Assassins are your typical rogue class in Aion. Stealthy, bursty, very fast, and you're gonna enjoy them if you enjoy rogue type classes. They have also access to stealth, which makes them also viable for some tricks in PvE. Obviously PvP, not even to be mentioned. They can wear two one-handed weapons, either dagger, 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 sword, 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 etc. They can do a lot of DPS. I would put assassins in terms of PvE DPS in the top 3 classes in Aion. In terms of difficulty, I will rate assassins same as gladiators, a 4.5 star class, because there are mechanics that you really need to do constantly. There are rotations and there are things that you need to learn before being exceptional at it. Again, the same as gladiator and the same as any other class in any other MMORPG, it is very rare to see an exceptional assassin playing the game. However, there are some. I've had the honor to meet some, and it's jaw-dropping in terms of what they can do if the player behind the keyboard is absolutely amazing. Moving on to mages, they branch out at level 9 into Sorcerer and Spiritmaster. Both of these classes wear light armor and both of them are ranged. Both of them also being a magical DPS class. Sorcerer is your typical mage type. Fireballs, lava, tsunami, long casts, big deeps, etc, etc, yeah? They do very well in terms of PvE DPS, putting them at number 1, uncontested to be honest, in patch 6.x. Sorcerer number 1 DPS in the game as it stands right now. So sorcerers are very useful for any PvE content. They don't have as much AoE and as fast as a gladiator does, for example. However, they do have some AoE, and it doesn't even matter if they would have any, because their single target DPS is very, very high. I forgot to mention that rangers have almost no AoE at all, and assassins have almost no AoE at all as well. So that makes them primarily a single target DPS class, same as a Templar. The only AoE DPS class that you can think of is a Gladiator so far, and the Mage partially. Spiritmaster is the second branch from the mage profession. They are a warlock slash necromancer type from other MMORPGs. They have a summon. Their summon does various things on their behalf, including damage. Spiritmasters do damage over time, magical damage at that, and with patch 6.0 they have been slightly toned down in terms of damage, and that is mostly because of their pets. Their summons have kept their properties from before this patch, and thus they do less damage. Thus the Spiritmaster does less than it did before. Spiritmasters, I would put them somewhere in the top 6 classes in Aion, so that would be in the bottom half in terms of PvE DPS. They are very useful in every other content, including PvE actually, because of their fears, because of their debuffs that they can apply to bosses and so on and so forth. However, in terms of raw damage, and it's single target damage at that mostly, 90%, they are in the bottom half. Let's move on to priests, and I'm gonna enable my cam because you guys can see now. Priests at level 9 branch out into Chanters and Clerics. Clerics are the main healers of the game, the only healer class in Aion that can do any content, that has enough heals for absolutely everything, from easy to super hard. So if you've been playing a healer in other games, Cleric is the class for you. Cleric wears a mace and a shield. In terms of DPS, they do magical damage, and they are somewhere in the bottom of the barrel compared to other classes. It's pretty fair because clerics are the only healer, as I've told you, so they have a different role in the game than DPSing, yeah? Cool. In terms of difficulty, as a cleric, you need to learn the game very well. You need to learn encounters very well, PvE, PvP. You need to learn what the other classes do and when, what you need to do when the other class does that. That is the hard part in playing a cleric, not the actual buttons or the rotations or the skills or anything like that. It's positioning, it's timing, and it's learning the actual game, PvP and PvE. That's why it has 3 stars, not because of the actual class skills, yeah? Cool. Chanters are a physical DPS class. Priest is the only profession that branches out to one magical, one physical in Aion. Chanters are a support class. They can also heal a little bit, definitely not enough for super hard content, PvE or PvP. Chanters bring a lot of support, and Chanters are the best support class in the game by far. They have been the best support class since Aion started, and I can tell you that one of the key to my success in this game, the success that I've had, is an exceptional Chanter in the group. I've always had a Chanter, I've always played with Chanter, and actually now in patch 6.2 I'm playing myself a Chanter finally, yeah, after 9 years. So Chanters wear a staff, and as I told you, they bring a lot of offensive boons and defensive boons to the group. Chanters do physical DPS, and in terms of damage output, number 5 there in compared to every other class. Both of these classes wear chain as an armor. Chain is somewhere in terms of survivability in between plate and leather. Cool. Anything about Chanter? Yes, the Saivo difficulty rating. Chanter is not a hard class at all to learn and to do. DPSing with Chanter doesn't take much, and also supporting with Chanter doesn't take much either. It's a nice, pleasant, enjoyable class to play. However, it is pretty easy, definitely recommendable or definitely recommended for a new player that just started the game, alongside Templars as well so far. Let's go to Engineers, guys. Engineer is a profession that was added more recently than the previous 4 in Aion. Engineer at level 9 branches out to Gunner, which is this one that you see here, these two characters. Gunners can wear 2 pistols or a big ass cannon, or they branch out to the Aethertech, which is the robot that you see in the background. It's basically your character embarking a robot, and you have robot-y looking skills. But let's talk about Gunners first, since we started with them. Gunner is a ranged magical DPS class. Bursty, pretty sustainable DPS. I would definitely place Gunners in patch 6.0 in the top 4 PvE DPSs in the game. Gunner is a class that gets a 3-star rating from me. There is a weapon swap mechanic, however it's not very punishing, and Gunner is generally a quite easy class to play, but just because of the weapon swap mechanic and because there is a rotation, I would give them 3 stars and not fewer. That's it. In terms of Aethertechs, the robot in the background, Aethertechs are a very fun class to play, very survivable. They are also a magical DPS class. They can also tank, same as Gladiators. They are a bit of an off tank, not as strong in terms of defensive cooldowns as a Templar. However, they can tank in PvE content without problems, as long as, of course, you are at the top of your game. In terms of damage, I would place Aethertechs in the bottom half compared to everyone else. And in terms of difficulty, I will give Aethertechs a 2.5 star. Nothing spectacular to play an Aethertech. It's a pretty straightforward class. There is no weapon swap mechanic, and there is no set rotation besides a very simple one for PvP encounters. Yeah. Let's go to Artist. Artist only branches into Bard, as I've told you. Bard is kind of like a bard from other games. It wears a harp, it can support a little bit, do damage a little bit. In terms of PvE DPS, I would place bards in the bottom 4 classes compared to everyone else, but that is absolutely no shame. Bards come in very handy in some very hard PvE content. You actually need a bard that knows what he's doing, so you will definitely find groups. However, in terms of DPS, you will not shine unless, of course, everyone else is extremely bad at playing their own class. Yeah. Having that said, I give bards a 1 star in terms of how easy it is to play. Bards is a pretty straightforward class. Not very much rotation to learn. There is no weapon swapping mechanic. It's a range class as well. Lot of instant skills that can be used while moving, etc, etc. So it's a class that is very beginner friendly, same as Templar, same as Chanter. Yeah, and that's everything for the classes, guys. We've went through each of them. I hope this video was helpful to you. I hope it gave you a better overview on each class. Remember one very important thing before I let you go: always pick the class that you enjoy playing. If you enjoy playing a Templar, pick a Templar. Nobody's gonna reject you for groups. If you're a good Templar, an exceptional player, you're gonna find any groups for any content, PvP, PvE, open world, whatever. If you enjoy playing a Bard, but you heard me saying that Bards don't really do that much damage, it's not a problem, guys. Bards are needed for other things, and Bards can also pull out a decent amount of DPS. You as an exceptional Bard, if you really enjoy the class, can definitely pull out more damage than a really bad sorcerer. So that's my point. It's not like you're gonna be always the last, always laughed at, always kicked from stuff. Not gonna happen in this game called Aion, guys. Yeah, so play what you enjoy. That is the most important part. You're gonna find groups for everything, especially for PvP, where these kinds of DPS comparisons, they don't matter absolutely at all. Yeah. Having that said, as always, guys, I wish you lots of love. I will see you soon, and thank you so much for watching.